Hey there, saltwater anglers, and welcome to the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report, your local report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. This podcast is part of the Great Days Outdoors Network, and each week we'll be talking to local experts to learn ways that we can become better anglers and stewards of this fishery, whether you're out fishing in the ocean, the lower bay, or its tributaries. We also ask that every angler do their part in sustainable fishing practices, keeping this amazing fishery healthy and thriving for generations to come. Spring is here, and the water in the bite is warming up. So let us take a minute and hear who's bringing us this week's show, and then we're going to jump into the report and find out what's going on. Upgrade your waterfront with Killer Doc's premium dock furniture, built to last a lifetime in marine conditions. Crafted from marine-grade aluminum with a protective anti-corrosion coating, it's tough enough to handle the elements while providing unmatched comfort. Featuring sunbrella cushions with fast-drying, removable covers, our furniture stays securely in place, even in storms. Choose from cabanas, club chairs, love seats, tables, and more to create your perfect dockside retreat. Durability meets elegance at Killer Doc. Check out the full collection at killerdoc.com today. Sam Rust Seafood, your locally trusted source for premium wholesale seafood. Servicing customers from Hampton Roads down through the Outer Banks, Richmond, and surrounding areas, including Fredericksburg, Charlottesville, and Lynchburg for over 80 years. Committed to the highest standards in the industry, Sam Rust distributes the best of the ocean directly to your restaurant, hotel, or grocery store on time and at a great price. Visit samrust.com to discover how quality, tradition, and sustainability come together. So don't cuss, call Sam Rust. Check it out. AFTCO has a gift for our listeners. They're now offering a camo sunglasses cleaner cloth with any purchase of AFTCO products. For cool mornings, I love my Reaper sweatshirt. And on those hot days, my Samurai sun shirt. You just can't beat the quality and performance. All you got to do to get your coupon code is text LCBFR to 779-345-2918 to get subscribed to our email list, and we'll send you the promo code via email. All right, guys. Well, welcome to this week's show. If you have the internet, you've probably seen a thing or two about a large bluefin tuna fish getting caught out of a kayak. And we're really honored and excited to have on the show Stefan Turco, who was the man, the myth, the legend, who ventured out in a kayak to go chase down a bluefin tuna. Stefan, welcome to the show, man. How are you doing this
Thanks
afternoon?
for having me.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
So many questions going through my mind. I know our listeners are going to have a billion questions too. But just like, let's start with some basics. Like, where did you get the idea that this was even feasible?
I don't know. It's like I didn't really know if it was feasible or not. I mean, I looked on YouTube before, and I never saw anything. I've never seen anyone catch a tuna that big out of a kayak. There were no videos on YouTube. Um, I've caught cobias and big red drum and stuff out of my kayak, but that's been done before, and I've been able to talk to the people who do it, and they, kind of guide you along, tell you what to do. But with this fish, there was nothing to really go off of, and it was just trial and error and figure it out and see how it goes. And I mean, catching a fish that was weighs more than the kayak itself was just kind of a big feat to look up to and see if I could accomplish it.
Yeah, well, you definitely did. And before we dive into the details of like how you did it, what you were using for bait and tackle and that sort of thing, take us back. You're a young man, you're obviously an avid fisherman, hunter, but take us back to the beginning. What inspired and started your passion for fishing?
I just always loved fish, and it's funny hearing my parents tell me about it. I remember we would go, my parents would bring, I have two other siblings. I have an older sister and an older brother.
Hmm.
My family would always take us and we'd go down and do beach trips on the north side of Oregon Inlet. We just go beach fishing. They catch drum and stuff. And it was my or my parents fishing. But anytime they'd catch a fish, they had a bait or anything, they'd fill up a 5 gallon bucket, put the fish in there for me. And I would sit and play with those fish all day in that bucket because I just loved playing with them. I remember one time they caught a bluefish, and this was, I guess, how I learned out that fish have sharp teeth.
Oh no.
I stuck my finger in that bluefish's mouth, and it bit the snot out of my finger. And my brother proceeded to bang that bluefish on the surfboard because he was so mad
Oh no.
that it took a chunk out of my finger. But yeah, just ever since I was young, my family just had us, around fishing. They like to do it. And then as I just progressed and got older, I just really started doing it on our own. And then, we get our licenses. My brother's 5 years older, so he got his car first, and then me and him just started taking off with it. And it just continued from there. I've just always loved it and just love to get out on the water and stuff.
That's awesome, man. And then, fast forward to I'm sure you got some time off of the pier from the surf. I'm sure you've been on a couple of buddies' boats.
Uh-huh.
Where does the kayak enter the picture in your fishing journey?
I'm trying to think. My dad always liked us to do things the harder way. We never really got into a boat, but like never got into buying a boat. We still
Hmm.
neither me or my brother has a boat. We just have kayaks. But it was a cheaper alternative for us to get out there. The big thing for us was cobia fishing. You obviously migrate in the
Hmm.
springtime to get to the Chesapeake Bay to do their spawning. And me and him always wanted to get out there and catch them, and we didn't have money for a boat, so we both purchased kayaks and went out there. And that was just where we really both just fell in love with the whole kayak thing. And I've just really, I would, there's a lot of days where people invite me to go out on their boat and I would rather go out on my kayak. It's just way more peaceful out there. I think you can get, a lot better days fishing because there's no motor rumbling. The fish really don't know you're there.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it was really just, I think the main way we got into it was during the cobia season. We needed to be out, at least like a half mile, and we didn't, have the funds for a boat. So we both just bought kayaks and started going crazy with
Yeah, the miles per gallon on kayak is definitely way better than a boat. That's for sure. And the
it.
maintenance is easier, the upkeep is easier. You don't have to bottom paint it. There's all kinds of benefits. We were
Yeah.
chatting briefly before we hit record, and I used to kayak fish, back before
Uh-huh.
having a boat. And there's definitely something to be said about the simplicity and the ease. And you don't have to kind of like we talked to our buddy on the show, Jet Ski Brian. Same things. Like you don't have to coordinate two or three buddies to be able to go out and target a fish. Like
Yeah.
if your schedule allows and you've got the kayak, you can just roll.
Yeah.
Um, so, kayak fishing, playing with fish in a bucket, getting bit by a bluefish. You obviously got bit by the fishing bug. You get into this season where, you start to hear about these bluefin popping off right there off your beach. At what point in your mind, like, when did the idea enter your mind that this is something feasible that you could go after and do? And then, talk me through like your prep and getting ready for actually the day that you're going to go out there and target one.
Yeah. So they showed up this winter. They were in pretty close. I think within about a mile, some boats caught them. There was a pretty good run, but it's so hard here in the winter time. We have so many northeast blows, and there's normally always some swell in the water. And obviously, if you're going to be beach launching with a kayak, you're going to want it to be under 3 feet of swell to get out there, relatively safe. Um, so that kind of, I had that thought in my mind a little bit where I was like, man, this could happen. But they disappeared for a while, and I was like, well, that's not going to happen. They were gone. The boats really hadn't been catching them a crazy amount recently. And then all of a sudden, about a week and a half ago, I saw this video on Facebook show up, filmed from Jeanette's Pier, and it was a school of looked like probably 4 or 5 fish, and they were blowing up on bait within casting distance off the pier. And I really didn't think much of it at the time. I just kind of saw the clip, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." There's probably just a lost school of bluefins that found some bait, and I just didn't think much of it for the rest of the day. Just kind of forgot it. I should have thought of it more seriously, but I
Yeah.
didn't think it was going to turn into anything. Um, and the next day I slept in because I'd been working a lot previously. So I finally had a day to sleep in. And I wake up, check my phone, and I see that people are hooking them from the pier. And I'm just like, first, I'm like mad. I'm like, why didn't I go out there? Like, I should have just known that there was going to be fish there. Um, so I looked at the cam. There was too much swell that day. It was probably 3 to maybe 4 feet of swell. And it just, the wind started blowing, picking up south, and it just wasn't a good day. So went out there on the pier. I saw a few fish bust from the pier that day, and it was just super cool. But at that point, I was like, I'm going to do this. I was like, as long as they stick around, because the forecast, there was a northeast blow that was going to hit like
Hmm.
right after that day. And it looked like it was going to be around for about 3 days. But I was like, if those fish stick around, I'm going to do this. So I had a few days while I was working just to be thinking all these situations in my head. Um, One of the things I thought is luckily having experience catching some bigger sized fish, 30, 40 pound red drum and cobia from the kayak. I know that a fish can get you pulling pretty quick on a kayak and you can start, going on a good sleigh ride. So I was like, man, I really want to have a good way to slow myself down a little bit. So I rigged up a rope with two carabiners on it, clipped those on just as kind of like a drag system, like a homemade drag sock with those buckets.
Ah, okay. So
So
so you had the two carabiners on the kayak and they were tied off to a rope, and then help me
yeah, I had a
understand how that
rope.
worked.
I had a carabiner clipped onto my kayak, and then it was probably a 4 feet piece piece of rope with a
Uh-huh.
carabiner on that side, and then I just clipped it on two handles of buckets, and then I just had those in there together, and I just set them on the back of my kayak and just had them waiting there for if I hooked one.
So they
Um,
were going to basically, you were going to just drop the buckets in the water and use those to create drag?
yep, and just have them fill up with water and create drag.
That's so simple, but so genius.
Yeah, and that's just little stuff like that. It's like I'm glad I had a few days to just think about little stuff like that because looking back on it, I think that really had a huge impact.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing was safety. My brother, I wish he would have been here. Like I said, we always fish together, surf together, we do everything together. He's out in Panama right now. He's actually coming home today, but he's been out there for the past few months working at a surf resort. He wasn't here, but I called him and I was like floating the idea around to him, like, hey, do you think this is possible? And he's like, yeah, dude, go there and do it. But we just talked safety a lot. I brought a 5 millimeter wetsuit out there with me just in case I were to fall in the water or anything like that. I'd be able to slip that wetsuit on and give me some more time because the water is still relatively cold. It's like
Right.
52 degrees.
Yeah,
The air is warm,
you could be
but the
hypothermic
water
pretty
is still
quickly.
cold. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, I should have had an EPIRB with me or something like that, but I didn't. I made sure my phone was charged completely full before I went out there because I knew I was going to be relatively close to the beach. I had a dive knife strapped to my leg to make sure if anything was to happen, if I start getting pulled out too far, I could quickly grab that knife and cut the line or, anything goes wrong. I just want to have a knife attached to my leg. And then I brought two life jackets out there with me. Uh, so that was just some of the prep. Another thing I did was you always see when they catch them in the big boats, they tie a tail rope to them
Hmm.
and then they drag them behind you. I brought a rope out there, and then I brought one of our like 15-liter dive floats. It's probably like that big. It's for
Oh,
spear
wow.
fishing. You can have a breakaway set up, and if you shoot a fish, it's just attached to the buoy. I figured if I did happen to catch one, um, I would clip that buoy right near the mouth of it. That way, instead of it trying to pull my kayak down as I'm dragging it in, it could just float right up to the surface, and it'd be a little bit easier to drag in.
Yeah.
So those were all some of the things that I kind of made up in my mind. I think I wish I would have put a little more thought into my tackle situation, and we'll get into that later on. But like I said, safety and all that stuff was kind of my number one concern. So I feel like I definitely nailed that pretty good. And I'm really glad, like I said, that I had about 3 days before just to kind of run all the situations in my head and get all that stuff dialed in.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a simple venture, go paddle out in a kayak, throw a bait and catch a fish. But obviously,
Yeah.
given the size and the power of these things, you had to think through a Rolodex of scenarios to be prepared for. And I appreciate that you did prioritize that because that is one of the things that we talk about on the show a lot is it's the importance of safety and being prepared.
Yeah.
What did you take out for like did you take a gaff or a harpoon or what was your plan if you did hook one and get it to the boat? What were you planning for in that scenario?
Yeah, so that was another thing we talked about a lot. I was thinking about the whole harpoon situation, if I could try and make one out of like a broom handle or something like that.
Yeah.
What I ended up going with was a little handheld gaff and then a bat that I grew up with as a kid. It was all dented and beat up, but it was just a gaff and a bat is what I brought out there.
That's awesome. Tired of battling salt corrosion on your boat, trailer, and reels? Meet Salt's Gone, your ultimate solution. This powerful, instantly acting chelating agent tackles salt and brine with ease, featuring corrosion inhibitors to protect against future damage and surfactants for a thorough clean. Salt's Gone is pH neutral, making it safe for all boat materials metal, glass, paint, vinyl wraps, and more. Highly concentrated, just 1 gallon creates 100 gallons of ready to use solution. Apply it with or without running water. It's perfect for any situation. Use code GreatDays10 to save 10% at saltsgone.com. Or if you need faster delivery, use Amazon or your favorite retailer. So
Yeah.
you've got all the gear, you're ready to go, you've talked to your brother. Have you told anybody else about this, or are you just like, I'm going to just go do it and see what happens?
I mentioned it to a few of my buddies, and they all were just like, "You are stupid. Like, you are not gonna do this. You have underestimated like how strong these fish are." And like, I knew I could do it, but like, just those thoughts, it's like people doubting you. It's like, man, you just kind of start to let those thoughts creep in. Like, is this possible? Am I really stupid for wanting to try and do something like this? But I just kept telling myself, I have a lot of experience with catching bigger fish from the kayak, and I was like, man, I really think this is possible. And that's why I just kept that knife strapped to my leg. So if anything was
Just
to
in
go wrong, I
case.
just cut it and just be like, man, that was a stupid idea. I really shouldn't have done that. And I won't try that again.
Well, I think
Um,
we're all grateful that the news article reads, giant bluefin tuna landed from kayak, not
yeah.
giant bluefin tuna drags kayaker, to
Yeah.
to Europe. Um,
Uh-huh.
prior to this bluefin tuna, what was the largest fish that you'd caught out of a kayak weight wise?
Uh, 53-pound cobia for my kayak.
Okay. So we're more than double that in terms of the weight of this fish. So that kind of just plays into what we'll get into in a bit. But
Uh-huh.
talk me through the tackle setup that you took out there. Rod, reel, lure, line weight. Like what were you thinking when you were planning for what you were going to take? What were you thinking was going to be the most effective way to hopefully get a bite?
Yeah, so my reel was a Van Staal 250, and I had 40-pound braid on that to start.
Okay.
I wish I would have started out with 65-pound braid because it was a little bit too light, the 40-pound braid to start.
Mm,
I had that on a Rain Shadow RX6, 8 foot heavy rod, which
hmm
that rod performed flawlessly. It's one of my brother's old rods. We are sponsored by Rain Shadow and they hook us up with rods. It was
Very
his first
cool.
batch of rods he got, and the rod just came out a little too heavy than what he was looking for. And it just sat downstairs for a while. And I went down there just looking for a rod that would handle it. And I saw that rod and I was like, this is the one.
Yeah.
This broomstick, this is it.
Yeah.
And it was perfect because I don't like too short of a rod when I'm kayak fishing. The 8.0 is, I think that is the cutoff, the shortest I would go. Because I
Mm,
can be sitting back comfortably in my seat and swing the rod tip around and it'll clear the bow of
clear
my
the.
kayak. Anything too short, I gotta kind of lean forward and really like reach out.
hmm
So that's comfortably I can be sitting there and I can just be pivoting around the front of my kayak.
And
Um,
how long is your kayak and I know it's a Hobie, but what model and how long is it?
it's a 2018 Outback and it's 12 feet long.
Okay, so yeah, so when you're sitting there yeah, you would have to have at least an 8 foot to clear
Yeah,
the bow. That makes sense.
yeah,
And then so 40-pound braid, and then take us, down to our leader material and to our lure. What did you have going?
yeah. So I had a 150-pound mono leader and I used a FG knot to connect that. Um, Burned all the ends to that. I like to burn my mono ends on the FG knot. That way it's really hard for it to unravel.
Hmm
And then I had a 5-inch no live bait needed swim bait on there and I crimped that on. And
Ah, did you double crimp it?
I didn't double crimp it. I crimped it once and I melted the end and then just
Okay,
smashed it down. I
yeah.
remember I read one article or one comment, I forgot where. The dude was like, "Man, someone forgot to crimp a crimp, but they melted the end and mashed it, and they landed like a 70-pound yellowfin or something on it. And they realized when they got to the boat that they never even crimped the lure on. Just that melting it down and smashing it held the crimp and it
No
didn't pull
way.
through. Yeah.
That's that's a testament to the power of just the line itself, the
Yeah.
resistance that it can create when it's melted and smashed down over the end of something.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think
So
about.
that's why I really like to do that. I mean, like with an FG knot, if I don't tie it perfectly or whatnot, if it's a little loose, if you just melt that end and create that little round tip, it really helps out. So just did
Yeah,
one crimp and then melted the end and smashed it down
that's
and yeah,
amazing. So
that was
the morning comes that you decide to go. What are the weather conditions like?
so it's nice. There was still a little bit of swell left over. Like I said, we had a hard northeast blow and it picked up. Probably got to about 4 to 5 feet of swell the first few days. Then it died out. It was probably 2 to 3 feet that morning. It was a nice offshore wind, so a west wind for us was blowing
Mhm.
offshore. The wind forecast was supposed to fall throughout the day, which is what I always like to see when I'm going out in a kayak. I will sometimes go out there if it's supposed to increase throughout the day and get that little window in the morning or whatnot. But
Yeah.
most of the time, I really like, especially when I'm doing something like this, targeting a fish of this caliber that I've never done before. I saw this day, saw it was supposed to die out throughout the day, and that was why I picked that day. So yeah, 3 to 4 or 2 to 3 foot waves, nice offshore wind. It's pretty sunny in the morning. It kind of goes from sunny to cloudy. Um, but so yeah, I got out there in the morning. Um, got out there really early, and there was no sign of fish at all, which was kind of surprising. And I was like, man, did I just go through all this work and just get all this stuff set up for there to just be no fish at all? A few boats went out there while it was kind of rough, but they were able to manage and they hooked a few fish. So I knew they were still around, but I just didn't know if they had finally moved back offshore or what. I knew they were probably in there chasing bait, and you never know when the bait might just disappear.
Right. Right.
So I kind of right out of the gate, I had some doubt because the first hour just I didn't see anything.
So when you're in that moment where you're having some doubt, you probably could or couldn't see. Could you see other boats nearby fishing, or were you kind of all by yourself?
First thing in the morning, I was all by myself. There was
Okay.
one tanker very far off, but
But no one fishing.
yeah, there wasn't many boats out there. As the day progressed, there was more, but yeah, first thing there was nobody out there.
So did you have one of those like biblical moments, like the thought to throw the net on the other side of the boat? Like when the doubt creeps in, like where do you draw kind of strength and courage from to like plow ahead and continue to pursue the journey and the adventure?
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of times it's like, especially with like my Christianity, I always reach out to God, or I always reach out to God during my low points in life, like
Hmm.
asking for something. And I'm like, man, I never want to be a guy that's like, you'll have a friend that always comes to you at a low point in your life. And
Yeah.
they're like, hey, can I have this? I felt like I was getting to that point. So as of recently, I've really just been praying every day. I just thank God for all the simple little things that we take for granted each day, being able to get out of bed, being able to walk, being able to see, because there's a lot of people that can't do that. And
Mm.
I take it for granted every single day. So yeah, on the kick out, I just said a prayer, just all the same things. I just thank God for being able to let me enjoy his beautiful creation, for being able to walk, for being able to do this stuff. And I just asked if he could just bless me with a safe day out there. I wasn't asking for much. I was just like, I appreciate you for all that you do for me and just keep me safe out here. And that's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for anything crazy.
That's a good prayer. And obviously he answered that and then
He
some.
did.
So were you trolling or were you planning to cast? Like talk me through when you actually started to see some life. Like talk us through seeing the life and then ultimately how you got the bite.
Yep. So yeah, I went with the lure I went with for the main reason of the swim bait. I sent it way out the back to start and I was trolling with it. Figured I'd troll with it. I was hoping I was going to see fish busting because obviously I wanted to be casting and hooking them. But
Oh yeah.
my first goal or how I thought I was going to get bit was just blind trolling. So I was trolling that for a while. And then I would say about an hour and 15 minutes into it when I was really starting to lose hope. I looked to my left and there they were.
Oh,
I
oh,
saw a school of about 4 or 5 of them and they were busting about 40 yards from my kayak. And
oh
my
my.
jaw was just on the ground. I
Oh
was
yeah.
a quarter mile from the beach and I was just could not believe it. And I was just so happy. I'm like, they're here. They haven't left yet. Another thing that I didn't mention is it was dead low tide when I first got out there. And I feel like cobia fishing, sometimes they're not there when it's dead low or and big drum fishing off the piers. The
Yeah.
tide can play a huge role into it. So I
Hmm.
figured it's incoming tide that they might just be a mile or two off the beach and that incoming tide might push them in closer. So once the tide started moving and coming in, it seemed like the fish showed up. Um, so yeah, I saw this first fish start blowing up, and I had my bait probably about 100 yards back behind the kayak, and I was cranking in as fast as I could. Trying, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, they're right there. I'm cranking, cranking, cranking. I just couldn't get the bait in fast enough before they went down.
Oh
And I was
no.
just like, gosh, they
Oh
were right
no.
there. That was my shot. So yeah, I got it in. I never realized how fast they move. I don't really have much like offshore experience. I fished a little bit, but there's some of my buddies are so dialed in with it. I'm
Hmm.
not. I never realized how fast those tuna swim because they went down and they were down for probably 30 seconds and they popped up. And I expected them to be like, maybe 100 yards away. They were like 500 yards away.
Oh
And I
yeah.
was like, well, that school's done. Like,
They're
hopefully there's
rockets.
more of them.
Yeah.
After that, though, I started noticing some more fish. I would look to the south and I saw fish probably about 500 yards away. It's crazy because you can see them from so far. But I just remember just seeing one lone tuna just jump out of the water about 500 yards away. And then I saw one other one blow up. Um, at this point, I'd say there was a few boats around. One of my buddies, he runs charters. His name's Dave Lusk. He
Hmm.
just got around and I was like, hey, dude, I gave him a call. I was like, I think this is you out here. I was like, I'm out here in my kayak trying to get one. And he just laughed and he was like, yeah, I'm seeing them jumping around me. He's like, I haven't got any bites on the troll, but like they're around. I'm seeing them jumping as well. And it just seemed like as the day progressed, we kept seeing more. But that day, I ended up hooking four. The
Holy
first
cow.
one I hooked, I I started noticing a little spot near the pier. There was a sea buoy out about 300 to 400 yards past the pier. I noticed it was just inside of that sea buoy. I would kind of notice them blowing up in kind of this one spot. And the bait might have just been hanging out around there. I mean, spearfishing a lot, I kind of noticed that, the bait hangs around those chains and buoys and stuff. So kind of started focusing my attention over there. I was on the phone with my brother and I was facing south and I hear one blow up behind me and I look back and it's a fish right there. So I make a cast and I'm cranking through there and nothing happens. So I start reeling in quick to try and recast. As I'm cranking in, bait gets about 10 feet in front of my kayak and I just
Oh,
see this purple blob appear below it. And the image I will have seared in my head for
oh,
the rest of my life. Just this mouth that is like this big just comes up, his tip of his beak pops up above the surface,
oh,
and I just see this one bait just fall into his mouth. And I start sticking him. He goes crazy, comes up, starts tail slapping all over the water, and goes off on a crazy run. And I'm just screaming on the phone. I'm like, "Oh my God, Quinn, Quinn, I'm hooked up!" Like I just couldn't believe it. I was completely mind blown of that. And he was freaking out. He was like, "FaceTime." He's like, "I FaceTime him hooked up."
oh my
Um,
gosh.
I
What a
thought that
rush.
fish, it it was the craziest fishing experience ever. And I got it. I have my GoPro and I got all this footage. So I'm gonna be making a YouTube video showcasing all this footage I got.
That's
I
amazing.
have the picture, I freeze framed it of just this tuna, and you can just see his mouth and the swim bait. It's just like right there. It's so
Oh,
cool.
oh,
Um,
what an incredible thing to have happen, but to also have the footage of it, like that's
yeah.
the cherry on top. I mean,
Uh-huh.
what do you think your heart rate was at? It had to have been just about ready to explode.
Yeah. It was crazy. I there was no thought in my mind. It was just like complete panic and chaos. And I couldn't believe I instantly threw the buckets, and they were doing good dragging. And I fought that fish, I would say, for about 6 to 8 minutes, maybe. It's kind of
Hmm.
hard to tell. Time's just like so hard to tell time when it's going like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I did a couple good runs, probably about 100-yard run, but I got him up pretty close. I really thought, I was like, man, I cannot believe I'm already about to catch one. I had a thought and I kind of let my guard down. And I was like, already counting my chickens before they hatch. And I was like, man, I'm gonna land this thing. Because at one point he came up top, probably only 15 yards in front of my kayak. He really wasn't fighting as hard as what I thought he was. And then he went down, started pinwheeling below my kayak, and he went to do this screaming run, and my main line just broke. And
Oh,
I just went from being as happy as I could to just being like, man, like I was still happy because I was like, I just hooked the bluefin tuna from my kayak, but I just really wanted to land one.
yeah, and
Um,
actually like bring it in. It's one thing to say I hooked one. It's another thing to say here's a picture of me holding
yeah.
one. And
At
as
least I had my
somebody,
camera because I was like, I can at least show people that I did hook one and
right.
I'm not just BSing and telling
Right,
people that I
right.
did.
Not coming back the boy that cried tuna, but
Yeah.
as somebody who went out for 2 years, 7 trips before actually landing one, had 4 or 5 bites before landing one, I can feel your pain there because it's like these fish are so powerful. Like the margin for error uh, is really large. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
things that can go wrong. And so what'd you do? So how much main line did you lose? And I'm assuming you had to then retie and recrimp, or did you have some other lures ready to go?
So yeah, I had to retie, and it's funny you say that the margin for error is so high because my brother, he told me, he was like, you are fishing for a fish that you have to be perfect for. He's like, they will expose every weakness, like any little error they are gonna find. He was like, you have to be perfect, so be perfect.
Yeah.
And I was like, thanks for the advice.
Yeah. This is
Um,
your one time on the planet where you have to be just like Jesus. You have to be perfect in order to get this fish in.
yeah,
But you're totally right. I mean, the slightest little thing, the tensions are so high, boom, it's gone.
yeah. So yeah, I went to retie. I didn't bring a lighter out there. And like I said with the FG knot, I like to burn the end. So I left a little bit more tag in than what I normally do, just to hope it doesn't slip. Tied up. I had one more of the NLBN swim baits. We call it short for no lead bait needed,
Yeah.
NLBN.
Yeah.
And they make this tuna hook, and I bought a 2-pack. So I was down one and I had one left. I tied that one on, did another by 8 foot shot of that 150, and probably 25 minutes later, out by the sea buoy, I see fish start blowing up. So I go kick out there. I think I threw 2 casts in there and didn't get bit. And the knot was just having trouble getting in my guides. I think I just had a little
Uh,
bit too much mono hanging out. I normally like to clip it really close and then melt the rest
Right.
of it so it slides in my guides easy. I
Yeah.
left a lot since I didn't have a lighter to burn it. So I was just cranking, trying to get it in. It wasn't. I was pulling line out, just trying to get this knot in because I'm looking at the fish blowing up like 15 yards away from my kayak. And finally, I just did this super long, drawn out like huck because there was like 8 feet of line out.
Yeah.
And I just lobbed it over there and get on my roller, start cranking, and come tight within two or three cranks. And as soon as I set the hook, the line goes. And I tie a knot on my braid so I know exactly where my end point is because that's how I also finish off that knot. And I
Uh-huh.
just see that little knot at the end of my braid. So that's why I love to burn the ends of those FG knots because it just unraveled like as soon as I came tight on that fish. And
Ah,
I was
that's
just
so
like,
frustrating.
well, now I'm out of these swim baits that I really wanted. That was like the one I wanted to land a fish on.
Yeah.
And I brought one popper that I didn't think the hooks were good enough for, but I was just like, man, hopefully if I hook a few hooks in there, it'll disperse the pressure out and they won't bend out. It was a Yozuri popper. So
Yeah.
redid it, retied, tried to leave even more tag in this time, but I tied a shorter leader because I think trying to reel it into my guides just mutilated that knot and it was hanging
Uh,
on by a thread by the time I cast it. So as soon as I hooked up, it just unraveled. So I did it short where I didn't have to reel it into my guides this time. Um, Probably another 20 minutes later, 8 or so fish start blowing up even closer inside. So I kick in there, throw first cast with a popper. I twitch it twice and one comes up and eats it.
oh, God.
Hook that one. And at this time, I'm like, I'm gonna play my drag really light because I broke off on the first one, and I just can't, put that much pressure. And there's no telling too. That 40 could have been good. I mean, I've put a lot of heat on cobias with 40-pound line, and it doesn't break. Braid is some tough stuff. There's a lot of menhaden and stuff in the water as well. You never know if something swims by and just clips your line, it can
Nix
cut
it.
it. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of variables that can happen. So I fought that fish for on pretty light drag. He was definitely doing some really big runs, lighter drag than what I'd want to, but figured I could start off with some lighter drag and put some more heat as he wears out and gets tired. Um, Fought him for probably 5 or 6 minutes, and I had the same problem. I had another mainline break. So at this
Ah,
point, I'm like, I have nothing out here. I just went through the 3 baits that I brought out here, broke off, like was feeling really down on myself. But I was like, I just need to keep pushing forward and keep trying to do this. Like I will get it done. So I was like, I'm going into the beach. I'm loading up. I'm going to the tackle store. I'm respooling with 65 and I'm going to get more swim baits and stuff.
what time of the day? What time of the day is it at this point? And
It
roughly
was
guesstimate how big
it
were
was
the fish that
11
you were
o'clock.
hooking? Okay, 11 o'clock. So you've been
Yeah.
out there since probably what? Oh, dark 30.
Yeah, it was right after within 30 minutes of sunrise. So it was
Okay.
early.
It's time we talked about catching some serious savings. Imagine harnessing the power of the sun to cut your energy bills and having a roof that's built to last. Convert Solar and Roofing specializes in top-notch solar installations and durable roofing solutions that stand up to the toughest elements. Their solar panels are designed to maximize efficiency, and their roofs are built with premium materials to ensure long-lasting protection. Whether you're out on the water or at home, their expert team ensures you're covered. As fellow anglers in the Lower Chesapeake Bay, the team at Convert Solar and Roofing cares about both sustainable living and sustainable fishing. So reel in those savings today and visit www.convert-solar.com or call 757-44-SOLAR. Make your energy and roof as reliable as your favorite fishing lure. Call Convert Solar and Roofing today. So you've been out there for six-ish hours already.
Yeah.
You go back in. As a fisherman, there's another key component to every trip. I'm a big fan of food. I'm curious,
Uh-huh.
what did you take with you on this epic day adventure? What was on the boat for sustenance?
So the first thing I ate that day was a piece of tuna off my tuna at the fillet table at 7 o'clock that evening.
Oh gosh, so you didn't eat it all the whole day?
No, and when I didn't drink any water. My mind was just so laser focused on it. I
Yeah,
just didn't even care. I had food, I had snacks and stuff in my bag. I just never once even cared for it. I was just so laser
adrenaline.
focused on landing one of these fish. So
Yeah,
actually, I brought my kayak up on the beach and I drug it all the way up to my truck. So yeah, I started dragging my kayak up the beach and I never had such bad leg cramps in my life. My legs were just so locked up and killing me. So I was like, well, I should probably drink some water at this point because my body is obviously not liking this at all.
right.
So I drank 2 bottles of water, went to the tackle store, um, went and respooled. This is when I put 65-pound braid on my rod. So upped it 25 pounds from the 40. Got 4 packs of jig heads, 2 more packs. I had 6 swim baits and then 4 of the jig heads. So I was like, I'm going out there and I'm getting one now because I got the right tackle.
Yeah.
It's funny, as I was walking through the tackle store and stuff, my legs were just killing me. I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to do this anymore. I got to kick in my kayak and like my legs are so locked up. Um, so yeah, I got that, went back to the beach. At this point, I think I launched again at probably like 1:15.
Okay.
So at this point, I'm like, man, I don't even know if the tunas are even going to be there because the one day they were busting on the pier, they were only there for like until 10 o'clock and then they just disappeared. They went
Yeah.
back offshore. So I was like, I didn't know if they were going to be out there. I didn't know what to expect, but I was like, at least I have the right tackle now.
Yeah.
I figured at the very least they would show up kind of in the evening time, which I didn't want to hook one in the evening just because I would rather have all
Safety.
day to
Yeah.
fight it without having to worry about it getting dark. But I was like, I'm going back out. So got back to the beach, unloaded my kayak, drug it down. And as I was putting it in the water and going back out there, I see fish blowing up
Oh
out there
gosh.
past the pier. So I'm like, they're still here. It's go time.
That's amazing, man. I mean, I would have pictured myself like in the tackle shop, like sweating bullets. Like I wouldn't be able to get through the tackle shop fast enough. Be like, hurry up, spool it faster. Like they're going to
Yeah.
be gone any second, you know? So
But actually,
you
I
see
wasn't
them.
even the tackle store. I live about 20 minutes from Jeanette's. The tackle store is only about 5 minutes from Jeanette's. I had to drive all the way back to my house because I forgot to mention one of the cables on my Mirage Drive snapped first thing in the morning. I didn't know what broke on it, but all I saw was a cable with all wires on my Mirage Drive, which is the pedaling aspect of my kayak broke. And
Oh,
I'm like, this is not good at all because this is trying to achieve catching a fish of this, size. I want everything to be working perfect. And I didn't know it broke, which it ended up being my reverse. So my forward still
ah,
worked fine, which was good. But I just, because I ran all the way back home, got my Mirage drives. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff where I just wanted to get right back out in the water. But like I said, safety was my number one concern. So I was like, as much as I want to go back out, because I was way closer to the pier than having to drive all the way back to my house, I made sure to take the extra time. I went and got the Mirage drive. And then I
just to
went
be
back out
ready.
there.
Which tackle store do you go to, by the way?
I go to the TWs and Nags. I go to all of them. I go to
Oh
Ocean's
yeah.
East. We got Ocean's East that's right on the causeway. There's a little, we call them the little and the big TWs. The one TW is in Nags Head, and it's a bigger store. And then we have the
Yeah.
smaller TWs in
You
Kitty
probably
Hawk.
know Travis Kemp from
Yeah, Travis
Foolproof
Kemp.
Fishing.
I was talking to him before, like I think the day before I was buying some tackle, and he's like, "Good luck." He was going drum fishing, picking up some mullet, and
Yeah.
I was telling him my plan, and he was like, "Good luck."
You mean Travis Kemp was going drum fishing?
Surprisingly enough, he
No
was.
way. Travis,
Yeah,
I know you're probably listening to this, and we'll have you on to talk drum soon again, but I'm just shocked to know that you would chase red drum. No,
yeah.
Travis been on the show many times. He's a good buddy of mine and great fisherman. So it's just good to
He's
know
an
that
amazing fisherman.
there was that connection there. He was, giving you the blessed baits to go target
He,
these things.
he was
Uh,
kissing all my baits. He was like, "This is the one. Throw this one, and you will catch a fish."
That sounds like something you would do. So you're back out there, you see them busting, you've got 65-pound braid, you've got a fresh set of, you've reloaded the gun with fresh NLBNs and
Uh,
swim heads. So what happens? The fourth fish, the one that you land.
that was the one. That was a lucky fish. So the school I saw from the beach, I was racing out there as quick as I could. The people from the pier were pointing like, "Oh, over there they are." So I was kicking over there as quick as possible. There's a boat going away from them, and I guess they must have seen that school because they turned around and obviously they had a motor, and I just had my leg, so they got to the school first.
Yeah,
Uh, they cast it in there, they instantly hooked up, and then they pushed the school down. I think they broke their fish off like probably 10 minutes in. It's crazy
yeah,
hearing all the people that hooked some fish and they were just like you said, these fish will test any little weakness in your setup. A lot of
yeah,
people were breaking them off. So I was kind of bummed out by that. I was like, man, I get it, they got there first, but I was like, I didn't know if that would be my one last school of them. So turned around and started kicking to the south a little bit. And I noticed this one fish, lone fish blowing up every couple minutes, and he was heading my way from the south, heading north. He blew up probably 300 or 400 yards away, and then he blew up like 200 yards away, and then like 150. He kept just every time he'd blow up, he'd get closer and closer. finally I didn't see him for a little while, and I kicked a little bit toward him, and this thing blew up once, and then I get ready to throw, and he fully airs out of the water, like 20 yards away from my kayak,
No.
full fish out of the water, and I'm just like, oh
Oh.
my God. Um, I throw right on top of him. It's cool because his tail was actually out of the water for a second, and my braid got hung up on his tail as soon as I threw right over top of him. My braid got hung on his tail for a second, so I had to like pop my braid off of his tail, and I was
No.
like, God, I hope I didn't spook him. So I just kind of let the swim bait fall a little bit, and I just would give it a pop and let it sink, give it a pop. I think it was on like my third or fourth pop, it just came tight, and I started sticking him, and he just took a blistering run, and he actually headed toward that buoy that I was telling you about. And I was like, oh God, this is gonna suck if this new braid I got just gets ripped all up on whatever chain or was
Yeah.
holding this buoy. So luckily he cut to the right, he cut away from the buoy. I threw the buckets out, and I just enjoyed the sleigh ride for a little bit. He started pulling me out to sea to start, which he never really got me too far out. But started pulling me out to start, and it was just a brutal battle.
Oh,
Fighting fish out of a kayak is not fun. It's not an enjoyable experience per se. It's kind of uncomfortable. You can't stand up. Your back hurts.
hmm.
And fighting a fish of this caliber was definitely, it was an all out battle for both of us.
Hooked on fishing? Then you're part of the local community that Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle cares about serving and giving back to, providing you with the right selection for each season's target species. They're your one-stop shop to gear up with the best bait, tackle, and insider tips to catch your next trophy fish. You can fuel up right out front on the water and then chat with the crew inside for hot tips on where they're biting. So swing by today. Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle, where your fishing adventures start and finish with your trophy catch on their scales. And the Van Saul that you were fishing with, how many pounds of drag would you say that you had on that fish?
I'm really not sure. Maybe that's one thing I'm not too familiar with, is the whole drag aspect and how much drag you can put. I don't even know how much drag that reel puts out of Van Stall. Are you familiar with that?
No, I actually just looked them up real quick. I know on the 80 wides that we fish with, when we're fishing for them offshore, they set the drags before we go out. I could be wrong. I'm spitballing here, but I want to say it's like somewhere between 16 and 20 pounds of drag is like the set spot. Someone listening is gonna be like, "That guy's an idiot and doesn't know what he's talking about," and I
Yeah.
don't because I don't remember because it's not my thing. I have guys like Captain Austin McDonald, one of my good friends, or Chad Baxter, another buddy that they know exactly what they're doing. But I would guess off the top of my head that you probably had somewhere in the 15 to 18 pounds range
I
of
got it to
live.
where it was hard to pull it out of this pool, to where I'd give it a double wrap and it was like took some effort to pull it out.
Yeah, so like
Um,
Cobia bridge drag.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was pretty tight.
yeah.
And
And
that
so
was my goal, was to break his spirit. Yeah, I didn't want him down there just barely kicking, kind of getting revived. I was like, I'm gonna break this fish's spirit, and he's not gonna know what hit him. But it was hard on me because I'm sitting there and just it's so much pressure, and I just can't get comfortable. At one point, I had my knee propped up, and I had the rod rested on my knee, trying to pump him a little bit. And he first started out kind of up on the surface, but eventually he started pinwheeling like tunas do.
hmm.
And like I said, the long rod was able to pivot around, but he was doing full circles around my kayak. So I was like, really getting my rod back here and having to swing it over top of my head and go all the way around. And just, God, my forearms were killing me. Everything was hurting. But eventually he kind of got pretty solid where he was just right off the front of my kayak. And it almost seemed like he was kind of pulling me towards the beach a little bit. My kayak, the whole fight, was facing the beach. So I
Huh.
think he was still doing it. He was pinwheeling, but I think for some reason he was just going a little bit closer to the beach every one of his circles.
Interesting.
Um, so yeah, he did that for probably 20 or so minutes, and he just kind of stayed probably 15 or 20. I can't even say 20 feet because I was probably in 20 feet of water, but
Wow.
he's probably just a few feet off the bottom, just down there kicking. And I really wasn't expecting him to come up as fast as he did. I thought I was going to be in it for about an hour fight, and about 20 or 25 minutes in, he shot up to the surface, and he just kind of came right toward my kayak, and I was like, whoa, I was not expecting this.
Oh,
And
wow.
my first thought was just like, oh my God. Like I said, I've seen big fish like cobias and red drum come up to the kayak, but like when I saw that fish, he first cut under my kayak and then came up, and I was just mind blown. I was kind
The
of
sheer
like, this is a
size.
bad, I was like, this is a bad thing. Like this fish is way too big.
Yeah,
Um,
that's funny. It it's
yeah,
it is crazy when you actually see them right next to the boat, and you kind of take them all in the sense of just like how beautiful they are and how
Yeah.
big they are and how powerful they are. And I can remember right before we stuck ours, because I was the gaff man, that moment where you're like,
The terrible spot.
oh no, like I actually have to do this now. And I
Yeah.
feel like I'm guaranteed to screw this up, like
Yeah.
something's gonna go wrong. So like, how did
Uh-huh.
you actually end up sticking the fish and getting it to shore without something going wrong? How did you do that? How'd you stay perfect in that moment?
Yeah, and this was the time where I knew it was going to be real deal. Like this was the do or die. This was when I needed to be safe, and I think I just got lucky with it too. I stuck him and hit him right in the eyeball, and the gaff kind of went back. And I don't know if I hit him like in the brain or what, but he might have just been really wore out at that point. But yeah, I got close. I stuck him, and he just kind of froze, like locked up. He didn't freak out because I've seen videos of people gaffing tunas, and
They go
you've
crazy.
seen them get
Yeah,
the gaff ripped out of your hand. They get pulled out of the boat. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that can go wrong.
right.
Um, and I stuck him, and he just didn't really do a whole lot. And I pulled him up close, and I grabbed that baseball bat and just started whacking, and just trying to.
How many times did you have to hit them? A lot.
I mean, I probably whacked him a little bit more than what needed to be done, but I just wanted to make sure.
Right.
Um,
We're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this the right way and until it's done. And
yeah,
and I'm sure too, from your perspective, it's a safety, almost like a self-defense thing, because you're like, I can't afford this fish to revive and do
yeah,
something crazy when I don't
uh,
have the rod and I could be like tangled and pulled overboard. So you
yeah.
had to do what you had to do.
So yeah, I whacked him until he kind of just seemed incapacitated, wasn't moving much. I busted out the rope that I had. It was just a rope that I just made a loop in. So I
Hmm.
ran the loop through his mouth and pulled the other piece of rope down, cinched it down, clipped that buoy on, and tied it off to my kayak. And in that moment, I was just like,
Did I just do this?
I was like, I just did this. Like, I cannot believe it. I mean, the smile I had and the feelings I was feeling out there, it's a feeling that I don't know. It's the craziest feeling I've ever felt in my life. Just
It,
the amount of excitement that overcame me was nuts.
yeah, I mean, it had to have been a moment of, I'm sure there was immediate like, thank you, Lord, for the blessing of this
Yeah.
opportunity, and then also just like surreal, like almost like when you're in shock from like hearing, bad news that leaves you shocked, like I'm sure this was kind of the same thing where you're just like, did this really just happen?
Yeah.
Like, am I standing on the beach with a 138-pound bluefin tuna, like from
Yeah.
my kayak? It's like,
Yeah.
how long would you say before it like really settled in that like this actually happened? Like I'm in reality right now and I have a bluefin tuna for my kayak.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, just looking down beside my kayak, it just didn't feel real. And once I got it, it's funny. I got it all situated and I started towing it in. And you were said the whole revive thing. I think that started to happen because as I was pulling him in, he started kicking and waking up. And I'm like, this is not good at all. I was like, if this fish fully wakes up and starts going crazy, like he is going to flip my kayak like it's no big deal at
Oh
all,
yeah.
easily. So I pulled him back over to my kayak and I started hitting him again. Um, then I grabbed the dive knife and I bled him out, which that after that point he fully because I was like, there's no way he can keep living if he's got no blood in his body. Which also, if you love eating fish, bleeding them out is the way to
Oh
go.
yeah.
It really makes the meat taste a lot better.
Yeah.
Cleaning them wise too, it's not all bloody and a mess. It's just a lot better. So bled him
Agreed.
out, whacked him a few more times, played whack a mole with him a few more times. Um, and then after that point, I could just kind of sit there. I said a prayer, left a few tears out there while I was saying my prayer because
Yeah.
I just was so over. Like, I just, it just was amazing. It
Yeah.
was just hard to explain, like the feelings I had, and I just felt like God went above and beyond for me out there. So it was just a really special feeling. And I just soaked it up out there for a little while and just enjoyed it as I was slowly kicking back towards the beach.
Yeah, those are like you can call them God moments, divine moments, whatever you want to call them, but it's like when you pray in faith for a miracle and then get one, it's truly
Yeah.
special, and like I'd like to think that God put the fish in the sea for us to eat and enjoy, and I feel like this is like the mountaintop experience when it comes to fishing to have gone out and do this. So
Uh-huh.
I'm curious, like I'm sure you guys made sushi, all sorts of things that night.
Yeah.
I'm sure the fish was enjoyed. What are your plans in terms of like, did you register a citation and like Did you keep the tail? Are you going to do a print? Anything cool? Like, how are you going to commemorate this, this unbelievable experience?
Yeah, so I got a print done. I went with this guy. He makes local lures around here. His name's Merv. Strategic Anglers, I think is his Instagram.
Hmm.
I saw he did fish prints. I don't know how to do that, and I wanted to make sure to get a cool fish print. And I think he reposted my video on Instagram, and I clicked his social media and saw that he did fish prints. So I reached out to him. Such an amazing guy. He was so awesome. He brought me over to his house. We printed out, I think, 3 or 4 different prints from that tail.
Wow.
He did the first one, and then he had me do it all on my own. So I got to do my first ever fish print on that fish's tail. Um, so I'm gonna put that in a shelf. I definitely want to get a big print of me, of a picture of me and with the fish. The one of me holding him up with the tail by the kayak.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
That's the one that
saved,
they posted on Wired to Fish, where you're standing there
yeah.
and you can see the lure hanging out of his mouth. I've got a recommendation for you just because I think the bat plays a critical part of this story. How big is
Uh,
this bat? Is it one of the shorties, the stubbies?
it's not one of the fish bats. It's like the bat I had as a kid that my dad would be throwing baseballs in the backyard with me. And now it's all dented and beat up, and it's just my
Dude, I
my
think it
fish
needs to
bonding
go.
bat.
I think it needs to go behind plexiglass, like on one of
Yeah.
those like World Series bat holders. Like I think it
Yeah.
needs to go in plexiglass on a shelf with this picture, because God forbid that thing ever gets lost at sea.
Yeah.
You'd never forgive yourself for losing that because it's part of the story.
Yeah.
But that's incredible, man. I mean,
Yeah.
if you could go back and do anything different, like if you were going to go take this adventure again, you could go back and do anything different. Would you do anything different at all?
I really don't think I would change anything.
Yeah.
I like that it was a struggle, and I like that it kind of beat me down at first and
Hmm.
was hard. I kind of like when stuff's hard in life. I don't like when stuff just feels handed to you.
Yeah.
If I would have went out there and caught the first one I hooked, it would have been amazing. But I like the fact that it was hard and I had to work a little bit harder for it, and it kind of beat me down before
Yeah.
like I had this amazing moment. It made it feel way more rewarding. So
Yeah.
I mean, if I could change one thing, it'd be having my brother out there with me. That'd be the
Mm.
only thing I could change. Is if
Quinn, right?
yeah, Quinn.
Yeah. Well, Quinn, if you're listening, it sounds like you need to hurry up and get home from Panama, saddle up the kayak and get out there with Stefan. But man, it was cool just to hear the whole story, and I appreciate you. I reached out to you on Instagram and said, "Hey, you want to tell
Uh-huh.
your story?" And you're like, "Yeah, cool, let's do it." And I'm glad that I did because looking at the posts and looking at the stuff that you see on the news, like it looks like what you said, like, oh, I just went out there and, got the first one, so to speak. And so
Yeah.
it's cool to hear the struggle that went on, the 3 bites that went wrong, the
Uh-huh.
main lines that broke, the timeout that you had to take. You were definitely getting dehydrated. That's why your legs were locking
Yeah.
up. Had one of those days midsummer where you're in a drum school for like 2 hours and your hand starts cramping and locking up. You're like,
Yeah.
what's going on with me? Your
Feel like
body
a
was
T-Rex as
screaming.
you're fighting fish.
Yeah, T-Rex arms, like you can't even grip the reel anymore. You're like, what's going
Yeah.
on? But that's all part of the experience, man. That just makes it so incredible that you went out and did it. And I also loved hearing about the kind of time you had in the tank to think it through for those 3 days. The
Yeah.
the carabiner and the rope and the buckets. I mean, that's ingenious, and all those elements together were critical, to being able to do it. I don't think, I mean, would you say, considering the size of the fish you ended up landing, without those buckets, do you think you would have been able to slow it down and get it?
I think it would have taken me way further out. I think it kind of broke him down and made him go down more, even though he couldn't go very far down. I think if he got that momentum with me and it felt easy, he would have just kept going on the surface way further out.
Yeah.
There was actually a kid that hooked one the next day, and it drug him until he couldn't see shore anymore, and a boat had to rescue him. Um, so
Wow.
yeah, I think
Wow.
the buckets definitely really helped that make the fish go down and get right over top of him, because he realized that it was just a lot of effort trying to drag me out there. So
Man.
the buckets, I think, really played a big part, and I'm super glad I had them. And like I said, I'm just really glad I had that time to think it over, and I didn't just go guns blazing like the first day they showed up, like, oh, I'm just grabbing a kayak and fishing around, going out there. I'm really glad I had that time to think it over, and I
Yeah.
think God set everything up like for me, that everything just went right.
Yeah.
Um,
I would
and it
agree with
just
that. your staple, Bible verse on your profile there is, Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And, sometimes it's not necessarily going and doing the thing, but also the prep and the planning time that is all
Yeah.
part of that picture and that capability. So I take a lot of lessons learned from hearing your story to, when I want to go do something adventurous, take the time to be safety conscious and plan and
Uh-huh.
prepare. All of that goes into being successful when you go out there to do that.
Yeah.
Stefan, it's been awesome to talk to you, hear this story, and just to get that firsthand taste of like what it was like to be in your shoes, seeing that purple mouth come up. I can't wait to see the videos, man. Like
Yeah.
when do you think we can expect to see a YouTube video out there?
I'm gonna try and get it up. That's what I've actually been doing all day today. I had an interview with Wavy News 10 earlier today, so that just went on the news earlier, the
Oh,
whole
nice.
story. So I've been doing that. I had to write an article, but I've been editing that video. So hopefully within the next week, I'll try and get that thrown up on YouTube, and I'll probably
Perfect.
just post that on my channel, which is just my name. It's Stefan Turco.
Okay, perfect. So that's your YouTube channel, and same
Yeah.
for Instagram. And if folks want to follow your fishing adventures, is that the
Yeah.
best way? YouTube and Instagram?
Yep. Yeah. Just my name for everything.
Awesome. Well,
But
Stefan, any final thoughts for our listeners about this adventure or future adventures? Like, what's next? You got any other big
that's what
plans?
people were telling me. They were like, "Man, what can you like? How are you going to top this one?" They're like a blue marlin from the kayak, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I really don't know how I can move forward from this. Maybe like 100-pound cobia from the kayak. It's always
Yeah.
been my goal to get one that's over 70 pounds. So
Yep.
maybe this year, if it's a good year, I can get one like that. But
I'm in the
man,
same boat. Yeah.
I feel like my year's already made after this. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, I don't need anything else.
You can retire. You could never fish a day in your life again, and you're all set.
Yeah.
I'm sure some offshore charter captain listening might be willing to say, "Hey, why don't you come bring your kayak on the back of my sport fish, and we'll drag you out to the grounds." There's an episode a few back talking to the Fathom guys where Captain Matt Maldwin they did something called getting the shot, and they spent 9 months trying to get a shot of a marlin with one of the lures in its mouth. And so there was a diver who was dropping off the back of the boat into the water, holding the lure, delivering it to the marlin just to try to get a shot.
Wow.
So people do crazy things.
Yeah.
So getting a marlin from a kayak, I don't think is too outlandish of a goal. So
Yeah.
we're going to just throw it out there. It's April 2025. Maybe by this time next year, we'll be talking about how you got a marlin from a kayak.
Yeah. I
So
might have to up my bat size if I'm doing that.
yeah,
Maybe I'll
maybe
just
more of
step up
like
to a
a
regular size or MLB size bat.
yeah, borrow Thor's hammer or something along those
Yeah.
lines. Well, again, man, thanks for being on the show and spending some time with us. We wish you well in your future adventures.
Thank you. Of course. I appreciate you having me on the show. This was a great time. It was nice to be
Absolutely.
able to share my story with it.
And we loved it, man. Thank you so much, folks. That's going to wrap up an awesome segment getting to talk to Stefan Turco about his epic 138-pound bluefin tuna from a kayak of all things. Y'all stick around for a word from our sponsors bringing this content to you each week, and we'll be back with you soon. Recently celebrating 100 years of history, Tahatsu is Japan's oldest outboard manufacturer, producing high-quality durable outboard motors since 1956. Tahatsu America Corporation is the U.S. and Canadian distributor of Tahatsu outboards, offering a full line of four-stroke motors ranging from 2.5 horsepower to 250 horsepower, and the recently introduced Alaris 6 kilowatt electric outboard. Tahatsu America is a recipient of the NMMA's Customer Satisfaction Index, or CSI, award for the seventh consecutive year. Tahatsu is uncompromising in its pursuit of outboard motors that are both durable and as light as possible. See it, hear it, feel the wind. All right, guys. This next segment of this episode, we're going to run up the bay a little bit over by Tangier Sound and catch up with an old friend of the show, Captain CL Marshall, to see what he's been doing. I've seen a couple of pictures, and it gets my curiosity peaked because we haven't seen these fish yet down here in the Lower Chesapeake Bay. So, welcome back to the show, Captain CL. How we doing, man?
Man, we're doing great, man. Luke, thank you for having us again. I just, we need this wind. We need this wind to lay out, and we need some this cold temperature that we're experiencing this morning to go away because the fish are there. Just need to go get them.
Yeah. It did change, man, just overnight. All of a sudden, boom, cold. Our grass was growing, pollen was dropping, and then it rained, and then it got cold. I mean, how is that going to affect the bite that you guys have been having lately?
I'll let you know tonight.
Okay. Good deal.
real, real fortunate we get to go today. But we were talking about them black drum, Luke, and what's interesting about them. they're caught in some numbers in the Chesapeake Bay early in the
Mm-hmm.
year. They're certainly caught along the barrier islands. I don't know if you have that. I wouldn't. I can't imagine why you wouldn't be able to catch them off the beach at Virginia Beach or down that way. But up here, what we find for some reason, and we find this as a lark some time ago, is that in the shallow water, I'm talking 3 feet or less. That's where we go in March and find these black drum. They're usually the males, is what we usually find early in the year.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just odd when we catch them up here before they get them in any measurable numbers in Cape Charles in that area. So we're real cool, real lucky we find that. We've caught them all the way up in the Minokan River already this year.
The
And well,
Minokan River, where is that?
it is north of me a good piece.
Okay.
Uh, and also, I guess this is mid-May now,
Yeah,
mid-April now, mid-April
mid-April.
now.
Yep.
So a month ago, in early to mid-March, the commercial fishermen in Saxes were netting menhaden or bunker
Uh-huh.
for their crab pots and all, because they usually freeze it, store it, and use it over the winter. And in doing that, they were picking up black drum then.
Mm.
I'm in mid-March, so I think they come a little earlier than a lot of people would have anticipated. Just getting them to open their mouth and bite is always a trick. And up here, that magic number of water temperature seems to be 50.
Interesting you say that because, we've been talking to Captain Eric Myers and others about the puppy drum down here in the Lynnhaven, and even down in Rudy, mid-March, early March, and they were having the same experience where like the fish were plentiful, but they just couldn't get them to bite. These black drum though, I've seen some of the pictures you sent. I mean, they're huge. Like, what are these things weighing?
They're like 30 to 50-pound fish.
Those
Uh,
are those are studs. They got
and
those big old foreheads on them. They're big old knobby foreheads.
they do, they do have they got big heads. Um, and they're built like me. They're fat with a big gut on them, and they're fun to catch. Catch them, if you're lucky to, if you catch them in deeper water, 20, 30 feet, you end up with a vertical fight. It's an up and down,
Hmm.
uh, type of situation. But where we're in that shallow water, it's a whole different situation. I mean, we, I'll never do. We had one the other night. I don't know, I guess it might have been Saturday, and the tide was falling. It was getting low, and and I had to have them. It was really probably 2 feet or something, and that damn fish. I saw the rod with a telltale bob. I'm like, well, there he is. The guy picked the rod up, and we used circle hooks. We used 8/0 circle hooks,
Yeah.
and and I saw the rod go down, the tension come on it, and in that 2 feet of water, there was just this big hole in the water. I mean, I was like, cool. This was, this was worth the whole trip just to see that bite, to see that big hole in the water, and then watch this guy hold on. It was fun.
Yeah,
It
that's
was,
awesome. And the hole you're talking about is where the fish ate and swirled to turn and just left a huge vacuum.
yeah.
Wow.
That whole swirl to turn thing, man. On that same trip, or what I try to do, Luke, what I try to do. Um, Especially when I'm in shallow water, I like to look for some anomaly in the bottom feature, and what I try to find, like where we were, it was about 2.5 feet on each side of us. Then there was a little drain that came out of it that was about 4 feet, Luke,
Hmm.
and 3.5 to 4 feet. And it's not much of a drop, but it's enough. It's twice as much water, and so and we're sitting there, and I look, and here they come across the bar. You can see the school of fish. They come right off of the shallows. They fall right down into the little trench, the deeper water. You couldn't have drawn it up any better. And
Oh,
there's a whole school of fish coming straight at me, and I'm all excited. Yeah, it's going to be great. So I'm looking. I got 6 rods out. I got 4 people on the boat, and I am braced for chaos. And what happened was those fish were coming at me, coming straight toward the stern of the boat, and and they'd pick the bait up and they continued coming at me. There was no turn.
Oh,
So the first ones they picked up, we tried to come tight on them, and there was no tight. They just kept coming. We kept pulling it away from them, and they would pick it up. So if I said, "Wait, just hold on," so we waited until the lines got up past the bow of the boat, and then we tried, and no luck, man. We could not get them to come tight. I was livid. So
oh,
I was livid, dude. I had I just couldn't understand. Well, I knew why, because the fish didn't turn, and we needed to
yeah,
turn to
to
get
get
that.
hooked.
Yeah. So I was livid. So I grabbed. I had some shad wraps that
Hmm.
were, and I thought, I said, I said they're not blacks, because that's atypical of them. I said they're either rockfish or they're reds, because I couldn't see them. Uh, but I knew that I was 0 for 4, and that didn't make me feel too good.
No.
So I fired them shad wraps out there and pulled them back against the current, and they both, they got hooked up, and it was rockfish.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So at least we were able to have a little, game of tug of war before we sent them back.
Yeah.
That was good.
What kind of class of rockfish, this time of year? What did you guys end up seeing when you pulled them in to release them?
They were, I think one was about 36, the other was 42.
Oh, wow. So they were decent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're,
that is a good game of tug of war.
yeah, they're post spawn. They're post spawn fish.
Yeah, coming down from up north, I imagine.
Yeah, and it's not something that we're targeting. It's not. We're in there for the blacks, and we were hoping to catch some reds, but that's why we're in there.
Hmm.
Rockfish are just part of the play.
Yeah. Looking to protect your dock with materials built to last? Shoreline Plastics has you covered. As leaders in composite marine dock pilings and building materials, they engineer solutions that stand the test of time. Their EcoPile is the ultimate composite piling designed for longevity and eco-friendliness, ensuring your dock remains strong for years. And if you need a quick fix for worn pilings, try Snap Jacket, a durable solution that restores and extends their life. Visit shorelineplastics.com to discover how you can elevate your next marine project. Shoreline Plastics, where durability meets innovation. And it's worth mentioning for those listening that have never heard your voice before, Tangier Sound Charters and where you're able to fish from, you run that beautiful Mako. How long is that Mako again? Is it a 22 or 24?
231.
231. Okay. So right about 24 feet. And you're on a trailer. You can get anywhere up in there and you can go into the skinny water. So, folks that have never gone up and fished up the Eastern Shore, there's all kinds of cool places to go. The barrier islands, the different rivers. So, if you're wanting to get in on some, inshore action, Captain CL can take you anywhere up there. And you can make a day of it too. Drive up the Eastern Shore, stop in Cape Charles, go check out the downtown, go up a little bit further. Crisfield has some really cool stuff, that little Crabbin Coast Guard town right there on the water. So there's all kinds of neat history and things to do up that way where you could really make a cool day or weekend of incorporating a trip with Captain CL. But I'm curious, these black drum, what are they eating? What's your kind of bait of choice and setup to be able to contend with a 30 to 50 pound fish? And these things, from what I understand, I mean, they pull hard.
They do. They're it's not like a red. Where a red's going to fight up top. Most of the time, these fish, they'll, because of the shallow water, they'll stay up top. But after a while, they kind of get kind of stationary, and it's like cracking a bucket in. But
Hmm.
much rather catch a red. But this is what we have right now, and we can keep one of these. Now, there's nothing. A lot of people, well, those black drum have worms in them, and I don't know if they're worms or they're nerve endings. I'm not sure what it is, but hell, I'm gonna cut them out anyhow.
Right.
Uh, and up here, I don't know where you're from down that way in the big city, uh,
The
but
big city.
one of the delicacies of this time of year in the rite of spring, you see the dogwoods bloom. We take out in fiberglass boats, and we eat fried drum ribs. And if you haven't had a fried
Ooh.
rib, you haven't lived a full life. Uh,
Ooh.
yeah,
That,
it
that
requires
sounds.
a little bit, but you take the fillet off of that. And the cool thing, one of the things to mention about the black drum, yeah, they're fun to catch, and it's a big pull, and it's a big fish, and everybody likes to take a big fish home. But you know, it is a limited resource. I try to, 2 fish. If I got 4 people, 2 fish is plenty.
Mm-hmm.
But some people want to keep a whole fish, and that's fine. They're tough to clean, and
Yeah.
the yield on them, yeah, Sawzall, man, it's a
Yeah.
hot. But the yield on them is not as great as you might think. You might catch a 40-pound fish and yield 15 pounds of meat or something. I don't know. I've never done the conversion.
So
Sam,
it's a little less than a third, probably more like a quarter.
yeah, Sam Rust would. They
Yeah.
would. They would know what that is.
Yeah.
But
We can ask Bruce or Pinsey or somebody down in the cutting room,
yeah,
Ed. Somebody knows exactly how much comes off those things because they probably clean them every day. But
but
yeah,
yes,
cutting through them is tough too because their scales are like armor, man. Those things are so thick.
that's why the Sawzall's key.
Yeah.
But to answer your question about what we're doing for bait now, I set up in shallow water with a relatively light rod, a lot lighter than one might think. I use the Penn Battle 4000s for that. I've switched everything. Well, I've switched my medium rods over to Tsunami, the Tsunami rods this year because they make one that matches my boat. It's the
Well, there you
same
go.
color, and that was it. But no, the Tsunami rods is the carbon shield is what it is, the Tsunami carbon shield. And I'm using a rod in those shallows that's rated for, I think it's 3/8 ounce lure. It's a relatively light rod
Okay.
because it's got a limber tip and it's got enough ass to make it happen when you need it.
Hmm.
So we put that to a fish finder rig. And I'm right now, all right, I wasn't going to do this, but I
Uh-oh.
will. Uh, we're we're using half a sook, using half a crab
Okay.
in there, but the kicker is that oh God, is that I hate admitting this, I really do. Is that Fish Bites Easy Clam thing, man? It's orange and
Ah.
it's an artificial fish bite piece, and it's got that clam scent on it,
Uh-huh.
and we cut a little piece of that and put it on first behind the crab. We put the clam on behind the crab, man, and it makes all the difference. Of the ones we've caught this year, and I think we've caught, I don't know, 14 or so,
Yeah.
is only one of them hadn't had the clam, man. They like the clam.
Did you know every 40 seconds someone has a heart attack or stroke? In that moment, every second counts and every critical decision matters. Air Medcare Network's air ambulance providers can provide life-saving care directly to those in need at a moment's notice. With 320 locations across 38 states, they're the largest air ambulance membership network. Rest assured, they've got you and your entire household covered. Membership is just $99 a year or just $79 for seniors. Visit gdo.deals/airmedcare to enroll. You know what's funny? You're talking about the Fish Bites clam, and Fish Bites has been a sponsor of the show, and one of our our parent company, Great Days Outdoors, Butch Theory, who I was talking to you about, one of their regular guys on the show is the Bama Beach Bum, and if you go look up the Fish Bites limited edition Coquina clam, which might be what you're using, the orange stuff.
Use the Easy Clam.
The Easy Clam. Yeah, Easy Clam. That's what it is. Orange. You'll see right there on the package. It says endorsed by the Bama Beach Bum, who's one of the contributors of the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report down there in Old Bama.
Don't, don't tell him.
Yeah, don't tell him. But that's how we know it works.
It
And
does work. It does work. And, of all the fish we've caught thus far this year, only one has been caught without it.
mm,
And I've tried it. I do weird stuff, man. I'll do one side of the boat with it, one side of the boat without it. And then when I see a repetitive pattern, I will switch to it.
yeah.
You had mentioned also about, coming up on the shore. One of my favorite creeks to run out of is Nancock.
Mm,
Nancock, cool little town. They only have 1,400 people in the town. I thought that's about what Cape Charles has as well.
yeah. Yeah.
And I love running. It's one of the most beautiful creeks on the eastern shore. They got a nice ramp down there. There's a restaurant right beside the ramp that sells this wonderful Scottish salmon
Ooh.
that comes from over your way.
Hmm.
And that's and it's easy to get to from Virginia Beach, Norfolk area.
Yeah.
Miles or so.
How many?
100.
Oh yeah, that's not bad at all. And driving up the Eastern Shore is very relaxing. Like you go across that bridge, that's a sight even in of itself. If you've never driven across the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel and got to the high rise where you can see Fisherman's Island, you can see out towards the ocean, see up the bay, see the shipping channels. You'll probably see guys fishing. I mean, it's a sight. And then you hit 13 up there and you go up and it's just country and it's quiet and it's peaceful. It's definitely a drive worth taking. And if folks are, thinking, you know what, the thought of some black drum, some fried ribs, getting to hang out with CL, taking that drive. If all these things are starting to sound like things that you might like to do this spring or even this summer, what's the best way that folks can contact you in order to book a trip aboard Tangier Sound Charters?
Phone call. You can a phone call at 410-251-7341 is probably preferable, or text message, or we're on Facebook at Tangier Sound Charters, and they were on the Instagram at Tangier Sound Charters, of course, or call Luke and tell him, and he'll get out with me, and any kind of whatever smoke signal, I don't care.
Carrier pigeon.
Something. But we respond to all those. We try.
Planning your next saltwater adventure? Whether you're nearshore, coastal, or offshore, the right safety gear is just as essential as your tackle. A reliable life raft from survivalatsea.com keeps you prepared because weather changes fast and emergencies happen when you least expect them. Survivalatsea.com offers top-rated life rafts built for any adventure, from bay waters to the open ocean. Right now, get $50 off any new life raft with code GDO50 at checkout. Stay safe, stay prepared. Visit survivalatsea.com today and fish with confidence.
And one of the things too, Luke, you mentioned about coming up to the shore. Yeah, we do all that. We fish, and we try real hard with the fishing. But this Sunday's trip, if the weather holds up, and I hope it is, I got 5 women.
Mm-hmm.
What we're gonna do, we're gonna sail out of Nancock, and we're gonna ride over. We're gonna get us an Orange Crush before we leave Mallards at Nancock.
There we go.
And then we're gonna sail it. We're gonna sail into Tangier. We're going to Watts Island first, do a little exploring at Watts Island, and then we're gonna leave there and go to Tangier, and we're gonna go to Lorraine's and get some crab dip, the best crab dip ever made.
Ooh.
And then we're gonna do. I provide a little walking tour of Tangier with a little history and this and that. And if Four Brothers is open, I'm not sure if they are yet or not. Might grab some ice cream. And then from there, we're going to head north past Goose Island and Queens Ridge, and right down past where Heron Island used to be, and over by the Shanks and up into Smith Island, into Tylerton, where we're going to go to and do a little exploratory on Tylerton, look around there a little bit. And when I leave Tylerton, I'll call Donna. And when we get to Ewell, which is one of the places in in Smith Island, one of the communities that make up Smith Island, Donna's going to be sitting there at the dock with a piece of Smith Island cake waiting on us to get there.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it's just terrible.
it sounds awful.
And then we'll do a little walk around on Ewell and go to the museum and stuff, and then we'll kind of point our way back toward Nancock, and then we do those type of things as well as the fishing, and it's amazing to see a family. I had these guys from Miami last year. I took them to Tangier, and to see somebody go there who has no concept or maybe has heard about it, and be able to walk around and have a little bit of inside access with us over there, and talk to the residents and kind of see how they live. And I think it's educational. I think it's if we can get more folks on board with what's happening over there, I think it's a wonderful thing. New movie out too, by the way, featuring Tangier. It's called I think it's called From Here, Stay Here, or something like that, which is a documentary of what's happening over on Tangier. Have a screening there on May the 10th coming up. So anyhow, a lot of cool stuff in the bay to look at, and we like to share that. That's for sure.
Yeah,
and that crab dip ain't bad.
No, that sounds delicious. I looked it up. So it's Been Here, Stay Here.
Yeah.
Chesapeake Bay Magazine talked about it. It's a film that's coming out. That's really cool. And I mean, just anybody listening that's like, I've got a family. Two of them like to fish. The others could care less. Like these are the kinds of trips that are perfect for them, where it's like something for everyone, where you could encompass all of those things. And now I understand between mallards. Uh, where's the ice cream place? Four Brothers, Donna with
We're
the
brothers.
cake. All these amazing culinary things up that way. I understand now why the Black Drum are so fat. It makes sense. They're just so well fed. But anyways, Captain CL, it's always a pleasure having you on the show, man. Thank you so much for making some time, and I look forward to
Yeah.
catching up with you soon. The fishing season's here. We'll have to make the trek one way or the other. One of us is coming to see the other person this summer, and then we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, what we're looking for, we had our first red one the other day, and man, look, if this year's red drum season can be anything close to what last year's was, I think you and I both are going to be happy, Luke.
Good, good. Well, I'm excited to hear that. Y'all go check him out. Tangier Sound Charters. Get booked, get hooked. Have some fun with him. Eat some ice cream. You won't be disappointed. That's going to wrap up a really cool segment catching up with him. Y'all stick around for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with you real soon. Whether you're hitting the sand with set rigs using the traditional scent strips for pompano or fishing the flats or marshes for speckled trout, redfish, and flounder, Fish Bites has something for you. They're family owned and operated in St. Augustine, Florida, and pride themselves on making reliably consistent fishing products for anglers of all ages around the world. Fish Bites bait and lures are made with pride in the Sunshine State, USA. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits at fishbites.com. All right, y'all, that's going to wrap it up this week. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, to get your free APCO Camo Sunglasses Cleaner Cloth, text the acronym LCBFR to 779-345-2918 to get your promo code and be added to our email list so we can send you the new show each week. You guys keep on whacking them and be safe out there.